Hi everyone, Alice here from Local TV and Just Films and That. The other day I watched Avatar: The Way of Water, so here is my completely spoiler-free review of that film. We'll start with the positives and with the incredibly obvious. This film looks absolutely spectacular. The detail in every single frame is phenomenal. It really helps to draw you into that world. It's some of the most impressive visual effects I've ever seen, and it is just an incredible achievement from everyone involved. And you're dealing with water a heck of a lot of the time as well, surprisingly. And that is not an easy thing to try and animate. The wildlife and the different plants they have on the planet, it all looks just so dreamlike, just like this wonderful fantasy world. There's some really nice exploration into the relationship between some of the Na'vi and the wildlife. I really appreciated all that. There's a particularly strong connection that a lot of them have to these whale-like creatures. And it is quite nice to see those relationships develop. And as someone who is an animal lover and who especially loves whales, I really enjoyed those moments. They were some of the strongest emotional parts of the film, I think we've really got to give a shout out to Jack Champion here, who plays a character called Spider. So he's human and he's probably the actor who has to spend the most time with the Na'vi. So that's a lot of, I don't know what that would look like. Is that just acting with a green screen? Are the actors there? Are they in their motion capture suits? Whatever. But I imagine that was incredibly challenging for him and he really pulls it off. And I feel like he has the most to do in this film. Towards the end of the film, we get these really big action sequences and some of the violence in these sequences I really enjoyed. There was a great array of different violent techniques. It was really dramatic, and because a lot of the film leading up to that, it's very calm. It's all about relationships with nature. You feel like you're in a bit of a fantasy and a bit of a dream. So then to have all this violence happening at the end, it woke me up a little bit and it was a little bit of a shock, but I really enjoyed it. And I thought the juxtaposition between those moments and what had happened in the rest of the film was really powerful. Some of the main issues that I have with this film, well, if it weren't 3 hours and 15 minutes long, and if it weren't for those violent sequences at the end, you would think that this is a child's film. The script, the character development, the story development, the way that characters interact with each other, all those things feel very, I don't want to say bad, but very basic, and like they've been designed so that everybody can understand them. There's no nuance, there's no reading between the lines, nothing is left up to interpretation. There's a use of voiceover that comes and goes throughout the film. This is Jake Sully's character giving us lots of exposition, and a lot of the times I felt it was quite unnecessary and it felt really shoehorned in sometimes as well, and I wasn't a huge fan of that, and it would really jolt me out of the film every now and then. I was watching this with my husband and we got to a point in the film where we started making fun of the characters, we started predicting what the next line would be, and we started predicting what the next plot points would be. And that is bad territory to be in if that's the kind of attitude you're having when you're watching a film. But a lot of it was just so superficial, so predictable that we just ended up doing that. I didn't really agree or understand some of the characters' motivations and decisions, and it left me feeling like none of those characters were particularly likeable, so I wasn't really rooting for anyone one way or the other. Well, I guess all the different creatures and animals, definitely rooting for those guys. A lot of the times a character would grab another character and it would be like, hey, character A, let me tell you everything that the audience needs to know right now. Oh boy, thanks character B, now I feel completely caught up, even though that wasn't really necessary and I feel like the audience could have got it just through the visuals. There were some moments where I just thought that didn't need to be said, that line could have been dropped. Like you get certain feelings and certain impressions from the performances and you come to a conclusion about what certain characters must be thinking or feeling, and then they just say it out loud anyway, and I just kept thinking, oh, I didn't need that. Like I'd got there. I arrived at that conclusion anyway. So at the time of recording, it's Friday the 16th of June, and on IMDb, this film gets a 7.7 out of 10, and then over on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics give it 76%, and then the audience give it 92%. For me, that is overrated. The story, the script, and the character development for me just isn't strong enough to hold my attention for that amount of time. Don't get me wrong, this film looks absolutely phenomenal. To have seen it on the big screen in the cinema must have been incredible. If you love things that are just visually spectacular and don't really have much else to offer, I guess a lot of style over substance, then this might be for you. And I can see why people would enjoy it, but for me, those scores are overrated. Well, that's everything from me for now, but I'll be back with more reviews like this in between episodes of more modern releases or films that I just happen to watch for fun. See you later!